All right. Since you all can see my screen, we are going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you all so much for joining me this evening. Congratulations on taking the first steps to home ownership. Give yourselves a round of applause. Just showing up is definitely part of the process. So thank you again for joining me this evening. Um, this class is really designed to just give you the basics on home ownership, and what you need in order to apply and get approved. We do talk about some of the affordable housing programs and the different incentives that we have. So if you do have any questions, feel free to come off of mute. You can put them in the chat, but I do like to be honest because I'm looking at this. I don't always see the chat, so raise your hand or whatever you need to do, so that we can make sure that you get your questions answered. And I will definitely be sure to check the chat before we get off. All right. So, a little bit about myself. I am Chris Britt. I am a licensed realtor here in the Richmond, Virginia and Central Virginia area. Um, I just noticed today that I need to update my screen name. So my last name is formerly Wood. So if you see like one or the other, full disclosure, I am transitioning, in name. So that's why you see it like that. But I have been a realtor in Virginia for a little over 7 years. Just celebrated 7 years. Very happy about that. Real estate definitely changed my life, and that's why I'm really passionate about it. And I'm hoping that maybe it can change your life as well. I am an investor now, so I am happy about that. I do flip homes. I am working on building my portfolio. I would like to have a couple of properties just to retire off of. Full disclosure, I am a real estate agent, so I do not have like a 401k or anything like that. So I'm always happy to talk about creating wealth and different like retirement options as well within real estate. I am a Virginia notary, so if you ever need anything notarized, you can always pop in my office. The office is at the corner of Broad and Glenside in Richmond in Henrico, and I am a credit consultant. So if you ever want to sit down, go over your credit report, questions, I'm always happy to help in any way I can. My credit score used to be like a 400 at one point, and I did build it up. And I have helped others to build theirs up so that they can achieve home ownership. So that is the goal. So that is enough about me. And again, I just want to thank y'all so much for being here. We are going to dive right in. Let me see. All right. So the biggest thing about purchasing a home, you have to get pre-approved. This is what we are looking for. So we do have programs that start with a 580 credit score. That is going to be your FHA. And then you have to do 3.5% down with FHA. Once you get a little above the 580 score, 620, that's when we get to the different grant programs. And then once you get to like that 680 range, you can typically do conventional financing. So that gives you better rates as opposed to FHA sometimes. So it is important that we just look at your individual score and scenario and see which is the best fit for you. But they don't just look at your score, they do look at your payment history. They want your credit utilization to be under 30%. Recent positive patterns. So, making sure that you're not opening a whole lot of new credit or overextending credit, things like that. And then the ability to explain past issues. So I do like to be, transparent. No one is perfect, and that's fine. A lot of times we do what we call a letter of explanation. So with the letter of explanation, it'll just say, yes, I know that I had a late payment for this, but I was going through a rough time. Since then, my payments have been on time, and I will make it my business not to have these late payments again. And it's really just as simple as that. So the ability to explain issues if you have had them in the past. Now, things that we do have to work on. If you have collections, open collections, those do have to be paid or closed before we can approve you or you can close on the home. Late payments. You can have usually one late payment in a 12-month rolling period. So when I say 12-month rolling period, today is May 6th. So if you had a late payment in April of last year, because that's 13 months, we're not going to hold that against you. But if you had a late payment in April of this year, then that is going to be within your 12-month history. If you have more than one late payment, we do have to wait for the other ones to fall off. And then charge-offs do not automatically disqualify you. Typically, if you have had like in a collections or something and they sent it over, they charged off the original account, that's fine. We understand that. So I just say, do not let these things scare you. You can still move forward with buying a home. Just it's important to have the conversation. Any questions about what the lenders are looking for, anything like that? All right, we'll keep it moving. So if you do happen to have credit challenges, because let's face it, a lot of people do, the first thing we do is review your report. Um, I myself can do it, or I do have loan partners that can review the report with you, read over it just so you fully understand the report. Then we will work with you to dispute any inaccuracies. When I say work with you, we will help you come up with the template for the letter and everything like that. But it will be on you to send off the letter, update us on communications that you've received and things like that. For the people that are busy, I get it. I have people that, just want other people to do it for them, and that's fine. I do partner with a credit repair company, and so for a fee, they will write the letter, send everything off for you. So we can talk about which plan is best for you. And then in terms of pay down, so if you do have maybe like a lot of credit card debt or something like that, we can work with you on getting that paid down so that we can lower your debt to income and get you qualified for a home that that you would like. And then, of course, build positive history. So again, that's going to be your on-time payments. And I love how nowadays they have different programs that help with that. So some of the ones that I am familiar with, they're self, and that's SELF. Basically, they will report like your utility payments. So things that you're already paying and prayerfully you're paying them on time. If you're not paying them on time, please do not have them reported. But as long as you're paying them on time, then you can report those. They're not typically reported to the credit bureau, but they can add that on there, and that does help you to build positive history without having to open up credit cards and things like that. So these are just small things that we do that we can do with you and discuss with you to help get you where you need to be in terms of credit. And I do just like to set a clear expectation. It does sometimes take a couple of months to get credit in order just because when we send the letter, the credit bureau has 30 days to respond. And so then we may have to send another letter. And so it is a process. So if you are concerned about credit, I would encourage you to start the application and have the conversation early. That way, when your lease is up in 6 months or you're ready to move in 9 months, you're in a position to move. You're not just starting the process and then having to build your credit up also. So, again, just have the conversation. It's all about conversations. Any questions on that? All right, I'm gonna keep it moving. So pre-approval, this is where we, really get the ball rolling in the process. Once you have your pre-approval letter, that is when we start looking at houses. So what you need in order to obtain the pre-approval letter, you'll need 2 years of tax returns, 30 days of pay stubs, 2 months of bank statements, your photo ID and security card, and then, of course, proof of employment. A lot of times, the companies use like the employment verification system, or they have a form in HR. So, the loan partner will work with you to get that proof of employment. But these are the documents that you need. The pre-approval letters are typically good for 60 to 90 days. And then after that, we just need to update these documents to make sure that everything is still current. Now, I do want to say in this climate that we're in right now, interest rates are fluctuating some. So we are updating the pre-approval letters a little bit more frequently, just because if the rate happens to go down, you could qualify for more home. And then on the flip side of that, if the rate happens to go up, you could qualify for less home. So we do just want to be current in your pre-approval. That way, when you do find a home that you love, we can put in an offer and get to the closing table. So things to avoid when you're in the process, switching jobs, opening new credit accounts, or just making large unnecessary purchases before closing. And I say unnecessary because life happens and we understand that life be life, and life happens to the best of us, and when that happens, it's just important to have the conversation. When it comes to switching jobs, I will say this: if you have the opportunity to get a job that pays more than your current job, by all means, okay, we want you to do that. So you can change jobs. However, you want to make sure that you have no more than 30 days in between employment. So even if you say, you know what, I'm gonna start a new job, I want to take a week off in between jobs, that's fine. No more than 30 days. So we would need to have still 30 days of pay stubs, so we would need to time it and plan accordingly. So again, it's about having the conversation. You will hear me say that throughout the evening just because real estate is all about negotiations and conversations. So if something does come up, then let us know and we will come up with a plan to move forward together. So that's just how I like to say things. So, any questions on what you need or what you need not to do? All righty. And let me just check this chat box real quick to make sure. All right, we good. We're gonna keep rolling. Y'all let me know if you have any questions. All righty. So once we talk pre-approval, these are the different loan types that we have. These are the loan types really for the entire United States. The down payment assistance programs are typically more state specific, but just know a conventional loan does not have to be 20%. A lot of people say that think that it does rather. But just know we do have conventional loans that go as low as 3 to 5% down for some of our first time home buyers. But you do have to have a 620, sometimes even a 680 credit score, depending on the program. FHA loans are going to be the same across the board. They start at a 580 credit score. So these are very forgiving loans. These are for, people who have maybe had some credit challenges in the past, but they have, overcome them, gotten it together. So you just have to have a 580 for the FHA loan, and you have to put down 3.5% of the purchase price. So if you do $300,000, I want to say that's like $10,900 right off the top of my head, somewhere around that, just to kind of give you a ballpark. So whatever purchase price you are thinking about, you would just times that by 0.035 to get an idea of what your down payment would look like. When it comes to down payment assistance programs, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are programs that can help you cover some of that down payment, but just know those programs are not going to kick in until you are in at least a 620 credit score. VA loans, those are going to be for veterans. Those are going to be the same across the board. Do we have any veterans on the line this evening? All right. Well, just know those are 100% financing. It is a really great option. If you know anyone who is an active service member or a former service member, definitely let them know they do have access to a really great 100% financing option. And then last but not least, USDA, that is another nationwide program. So with USDA, it is for rural or suburban properties. So basically, in our area in Central Virginia, that would be maybe some areas of Dinwiddie, Prince George. They go north like Hanover, east like New Kent, west like Goochland. So just think of like farm area. You're not going to find USDA in Richmond City. It's just too populated of an area to qualify for that type of loan. But if you are interested in something that is in a rural area or a little bit further out, just know that USDA is 100% financing, so you don't have to put any money down. Now, you will have to still pay closing costs, but the loan is 100% financing. And then we'll talk about Virginia housing a little bit later. All right, so once you get approved, this is the home buying process and what you can expect. So we have to have your pre-approval letter before we start looking at homes in person. If you want to view homes before you get pre-approved, you can do like maybe an open house, or even some new construction models just to get an idea of what you might want in your home. But we cannot actually submit an offer without the pre-approval letter, so we don't actually make appointments and ask people to leave their homes unless we are in a position to submit an offer. But once you find something that you like, we do submit an offer. In our offer, we outline the sales price that we're offering. We ask for closing cost assistance, and we even outline our closing date. So we have all of that information in our offer. And then the seller has three options at that point. They can either accept the offer, and that's, of course, what we want. Um, if the offer is, maybe $50,000 under asking price, they can just flat out reject our offer. Or the third option is we can always negotiate and meet somewhere in the middle. So things that we typically negotiate on include price, of course, closing cost assistance, and then once we get into the home inspection, we can negotiate repairs. All right, so then once our offer is accepted, congratulations, you're officially under contract. So that home is no longer on the market. And we are working towards closing at that point. So the first thing that we do collect your deposit. That is usually about $1,000 and it's held in an escrow account. So you do, again, need some upfront funds, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we have the home inspection. So the home inspection, we have a licensed home inspector come out. They look at everything from the roof, they check out the plumbing, they check out the electrical, they look at your HVAC, they look at your appliances, and then they give us a full report on the condition of the home. If there's anything that needs to be addressed, then we can ask for it during that negotiation period, or we can ask for a credit if it's something that you are comfortable getting taken care of after closing. So some examples might be, if the kitchen sink has a small leak under it, and you know someone that's a plumber, we can ask for a small credit to get that taken care of. But on the flip side of things, if we go in there, and I only say that because, of course, this has happened before, if we go in there and the air conditioner is not working, that is something that we are definitely going to want addressed before closing. So we would simply ask for that to be addressed. And then after we negotiate and come to terms with the home inspection, we head over to the appraisal. The appraisal is actually ordered by the bank, and the purpose of the appraisal is to reassess the property value and just make sure that we are not overpaying for the property. So if we go under contract at 300,000, but our appraisal comes back at 275, then we have a problem because the bank is only going to lend on what the home is worth. So when we do put in our offer, that is where I come in and I do my due diligence. I research the other properties that have recently sold in the area or gone under contract just to make sure that when we do get to that appraisal process, everything goes smooth. So that's the goal, of course. After we get through the appraisal, we do have our final underwriting. So during final underwriting, your loan officer is going to be asking for additional documents, things such as maybe like your student loan statement, or if you're using 401ks, they may ask 401k funds, they may ask for your 401k statement. Um, they will, of course, ask for updated pay stubs and bank statements as they are available during the transaction. So you will be updating your paperwork the entire time that we are under contract. And it is important that you update it, promptly. I'll say that only because if we get behind, then it will delay closing. And that can sometimes become an issue if we're too far behind. 1 or 2 days, if we're waiting on final underwriting or something like that, that's understandable. But, a week or so out, the seller's definitely going to be asking additional questions. So just be mindful of that. And then, of course, your final walkthrough. So this is exciting. We typically do this on closing day. We make sure that the seller has removed all of their personal items. We make sure that anything that is supposed to have been addressed during the home inspection, we make sure that that has been addressed. And then we head over to the closing table. On closing day, you do take possession of the property. We're at the title company for about an hour, and then you get the keys to your property. So it's a really exciting day. You When you leave closing, you can actually go to the house and do whatever you want to do with it because at that point it is yours. Once you sign those papers, if you want to go open an account for a new washer and dryer, then you can do that after closing. But again, just do not do those things while we are under contract. And just to kind of recap here, your home inspection is usually about $500, and the appraisal is usually about $600. And then when you put in your offer and it's accepted with your deposit, that's usually $1,000 unless you are doing new construction. New construction, they typically ask for a little bit more for the deposit. It can vary per builder, but maybe like $5,000 or something like that. Keep in mind that does go towards closing day. So whatever you're expected to bring towards closing, they're going to subtract that deposit, and then you would just bring the remaining balance. Any questions on the home buying process, and what to expect there? All right. I must be doing a good job then, since y'all don't have any questions. Um, yeah, so that's the home buying process. I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. All right, so I know a lot of people are here for the affordable housing and the incentives. So here are some of the popular programs that we're currently seeing here in Virginia. Henrico has the affordable housing program, which is a really great program. They have set aside, I want to say, a total of $60 million to be allocated over 5 years. We are about 2 years in, but I know everyone is really excited about the River Walk East community that's in Varina, right there on New Market Road. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it is a new community with single family homes. They are going to have some affordable housings in that community. Full disclosure, the whole community is not going to be affordable housing, and that's not how they do the program with any of them. So they have different communities, and then say they have 100 units, then maybe 20 of them may be affordable housing, and they kind of just sprinkle them within the community. So that's how the Henrico program works. Of course, the builder incentives, those are really, I cannot stress, really popular right now. The builders are competing against one another to gain your business. They want to sell you these houses. So they are doing everything from offering discounted interest rates to paying closing costs, to giving away washers, dryers, refrigerators, just because those things are not typically included in new construction. So I have seen rates as low as 3.99% on the discounted interest rates for some of the builders. And then a lot of builders are paying all or most of your closing costs. And let me just take a moment and explain closing costs, because closing costs and down payment are two different things. Your down payment is in direct relationship to your loan. Closing costs are going to be taxes, insurance, loan origination fees, title work. So basically, that's everything that goes into getting the transaction done. So if your builder is paying all of your closing costs, and then you just have to put down 3%, then you can expect to only pay the 3%. So just wanted to kind of explain that to you. And if you do have any questions, let me know. We can definitely talk about it more one-on-one, depending on what you're looking at. Um, Another program that is pretty popular that I mean we all like, FHLB, the Federal Home Loan Bank Grant. Got to remember what that stands for. But anyway, they give anywhere between 5,000, and I need to actually update this because the last round they were giving 20,000 to our community service partners. So they were doing 15,000 to first-time home buyers, and then an additional 5,000 for a total of 20,000 for what we call our community service partners. So that's going to be your nurses, your teachers, your firefighters. And then we like to include as many people in that as possible. So I know even if you work maybe in administration at the hospital needs you to function. So we will consider you a community service member. So just let us know how we can help. And we're definitely, wanting to help as many people as possible. I'll say that. And then Virginia Housing. I told y'all we were going to come back to this one. With Virginia Housing, they do offer two types of programs. So the first one is a grant program. Of course, the entire program is based on income restrictions, but if you qualify, you can get a grant. The grant is between 2% and 2.5%, and here's why. If you do an FHA loan and you have a 3.5% down payment and you qualify for Virginia Housing, they will gift you 2.5%. That leaves you to only put down 1%. And they want you to put down something so that you do have some skin in the game. So that's kind of the logic behind that. And then if you do conventional and you do a 3% option, then they will gift you 2%, so that you still have to pay that 1%. So those are the grant options for Virginia Housing. And then the second option for Virginia Housing is the 100% financing. So if you, again, have an FHA, 3.5%, they will give you a second loan for the 3.5%. That will decrease the amount of money that you have to come out of pocket with to get into the home, but just know that you will have a second mortgage payment. It's usually very small because it's just 3%, so maybe like 40 or $50. But that is something to take into consideration, and they will take it into consideration when they look at your debt to income ratio. So just want you to be aware of that. And here's a bonus. This is currently going on right now, and since you all have sat with me this evening, I'm going to give this away to you. So the Better Housing Coalition is giving away $1,000 towards anyone who wants to become a homeowner. I will send you the link to register. I know they have some classes coming up Saturday, May 30th. You do have to attend the class and then meet with a housing counselor, and you do have to be pre-approved as they really want this $1,000 to go towards a home purchase. But you can use that for inspection, appraisal, deposit, or whatever, whatever you like. So I will make sure to include that on our follow-up email. Any questions on the different programs that we have available?
Chris,
Yes.
Monique has a question. If you
All
see the
right.
chat,
I can come off mute. You had said you got an extra 5,000 for community partners.
Yes.
But my biggest question is, I know with a lot of these programs, there's income restrictions. And
Yes.
so is there any way we can talk a little bit more about that? Because like I do a lot of like I am an official community advocate for the Mid-Atlantic American Diabetes Association. So
Okay.
like I work in the community and then I do work in medical, but I work on the pharmaceutical side of things.
Okay.
So my question is, you hear about this grant money to put me in the neighborhood, but a lot of people who work in healthcare, um, l- luckily have great salaries. So that's why I'm concerned about, the income restrictions.
Certainly, certainly. So I know that there are still some restrictions, but I will say that they do have a sliding scale. So they will go up Of course, that's why they do have some smaller grant options because as your income goes up, the amount that they give you goes down. But we can certainly.
Which is, listen, I feel blessed that, that I work in healthcare. And I, of course, I would love somebody to have it but if there is money, this is a process that it sounds like there's a lot of, you said you may have to come up with 1,000 for the inspection, and then so knowing that you can get some grant money to do that, I think would take some of the stress off. I just don't know if I'd qualify.
Absolutely. So when we do your application, at that point, we can see your income as well as your debt to income. So we can then let you know at that point what programs you may qualify for. Some of the programs do have classes and things that you have to attend, but we would let you know, and then you can, attend those classes. But I say that only because I don't want you registering for every class, trying to do every class from here to the other side of town, and you not qualify for the programs. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some very informative classes out there. Virginia Housing actually offers a free 8-hour class where they go over a deep dive in home ownership. I actually used to teach that class. But they offer it in person as well as online. So I would say that if you want additional information, that would be the first place that I would recommend that you start. But again, your what programs you qualify for, we would see when you do your application. The Better Housing Coalition, they do not have any income restrictions that I'm aware of. You just sign up and take the class for that.
So my last question is, it's kind of twofold, because it sounds like basically what you're saying is, don't here's the list of programs, but don't worry, we're going to look for all the programs when you get ready to apply for your loan. And then the classes that they offer, I'm assuming they offer them on a regular cadence, because like I know you said there's one coming up, but you may not be ready now. But do they usually have these classes like monthly, or do you see what I mean? So you want to be able to prepare. So like if I know I'm gonna be ready to try and apply for a loan by August, I may want to take the July class. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes. So I know with the Better Housing Coalition, I know that they're doing that one monthly, and they're doing it usually one time a month, but they have different locations for you to choose from. So you'll get that link in an email, if not tonight, tomorrow morning. And then Virginia Housing, that class is offered online, so you can do it at any time. I will include make a note to myself to include the Virginia Housing link as well. And then they have in-person classes truly almost daily around town. So you can always go onto the website and see when the class is available, and you can, register for it. Does that answer your question?
You have answered all of my questions. Thank you.
Oh, why, thank you. I'm glad that I was able to help. If you think of anything else, let me know. And I'll definitely follow up with you tomorrow as well. Well, actually, I know we talked, so I got you, Monique. We'll come do like a one-on-one plan for you. But just so that you know, and the good thing is the programs, you can stack them. So if you do happen to get grant assistance, you can use that. Um, if you get, like, say, builder incentives, you can use those to help buy down the interest rate. Or, of course, builder or seller paid closing costs. So whether you go new construction Or if you go resale, we can ask for closing cost assistance. So just know that, we can put them all together. I will say that I have had one person, she actually closed in December, well, this past December. She went with the Henrico Affordable Housing Program. So she got $100,000 through Henrico. And then because the Henrico Affordable Housing Program is all new construction, the builder was giving an additional $20,000 in builder closing cost assistance, which she was able to use to pay all of her closing costs as well as buy down her rate. And then she went to the Better Housing Coalition class and got an additional $1,000 for her home purchase. So all in all, she got $121,000 in grant funds. Full disclosure, that does not happen every day, but I will say that that community does have more homes available. And since y'all are on here with me this evening, I will just share with you that community is the Crossings at Mulberry. It's basically at the corner of Brook Road and Chamberlain on the Henrico side. They are the only community in the Henrico affordable housing thus far that has just given the $100,000. A lot of the other communities stagger it based on income and they have different overlays on top of the program. But I can truly say that the Crossings at Marlborough was one of the easiest communities to work with in terms of the Henrico Affordable Housing Program. So if you're really interested in, saving money, things like that, we do have programs out there, and I am happy to sit down with you. Most of the time, they are for first-time home buyers, and just so that you know, um, if you've owned a home before in the past, that's fine, just as long as you have not owned a home in Virginia within the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer. You typically have to complete the home buying course and a minimum credit score again of 620. And then, of course, in order to get these programs, it does have to be your primary residence. So it cannot be an investment property, rental property, Airbnb, things like that. Alrighty. And so here is what we do to help. If you're ready now, I would encourage you to work on the application. From there, and full disclosure, I do not do these classes with a lender just because depending on whether you're doing new construction or resale or your situation, you may have a different path. Once we have our one-on-one conversation, I can point you in the right direction of getting started. Even if you are three to 12 months out, I would encourage you to complete an application. I do have one loan partner that does a lot of credit help. And then they also do a soft pull. So it's not even a hard inquiry on your credit. So it's literally no pain on the application. And then we will still sit down and come up with that personalized plan, whether it be to improve credit, build savings, just to make sure that when you are ready in 6 or 12 months, you are actually in a position at that point. And then, of course, we have credit repair. I have a few different lenders that I work with, and then, of course, real estate guidance. So whether you're looking for a single family or a townhome or an investment property, I'm definitely happy to have the conversation with you. So we can just schedule a one-on-one consultation and go from there. Any questions? All right. Well, we went through pretty fast this evening. So that really is all the information that I have for you. Again, I want to thank y'all so much for joining me. Again, this is really just the basics of home ownership. Um, I will schedule calls with each of you all so that we can, dive into your situation and come up with your individualized plan. This QR code, if you feel like the information was helpful and informative, this one actually takes you to my Google page. If you could just leave a review, that would be great. If not, I'll ask again when I hopefully help you find your home. But anyway, just a thing for myself. That's one thing I've challenged myself to do this year to work on my Google reviews. So I would appreciate your help in that area. But thank y'all so much for joining. I'll definitely be following up with you each individually. Before I let you go, do you have any questions, concerns, outbursts, thoughts you would like to share? We have a few extra minutes. Let me check the chat. Okay, gotcha. I see your question now. Perfect. And then it looks like Grace dropped the link to the Better Housing Coalition class in the chat. So that's there. We'll still send that out in an email, and we will be sure to include the Virginia housing link with that. All right. Well, I am going to let you go. Again, I want to thank y'all so much for joining me this evening. I hope it was informative. Monique, it looks like you're coming off mute. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Just thank you. That was really informative. And I look forward to working with you.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you got something from it. Like I said, this is just like surface information. When we sit down and come up with your plan, we'll talk more about, your situation one on one. And then once we have the pre-approval letter, we'll dive into the purchase agreement so that you're fully prepared when we do submit an offer. So we do have like different checkpoints and different info sessions along the way. So this is just to get you started, just to start gathering information. Thank you so much again for joining, and I hope y'all have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.